The word psychic covers all manner of abilities, though today we commonly associate it with mediumship. The word psychic was coined in 1871 by scientist William Crookes, an anglicised version of the French psychique, itself appearing in 1865. The word psychic, according to Cambridge Dictionary, means having a special mental ability, for example, so that you are able to know what will happen in the future or know what people are thinking. The types of ability can be quite broad. Psychic refers to the mediumship of people like Acorah, it refers to the spoon bending of Uri Geller, it refers to moving objects with the mind, reading thoughts, levitating objects. Essentially any ability that a person presents that we would label supernatural. The ability is often referred to in scientific circles as psi, and the quest to discover its mechanism has often been met with scorn and ridicule, as well as rejection by mainstream science. But there is one field within the sciences that is focused on discovering evidence of psi, and that is parapsychology. The word parapsychology first appears in the 1880s, but would take half a century to become the accepted terminology of the scientifically minded. For much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, the phrase psychical research was used to denote the investigation of the paranormal, or to search for psi. Numerous societies sprung up using the name, including the British Society for Psychical Research. But these societies were not necessarily scientific in nature. Indeed, the SPR began life in the offices of the British National Association of Spiritualists, which meant psychical research was often viewed as being an attempt to legitimise supernatural belief rather than investigate unexplained phenomena. Thus, parapsychology was born. American botanist Joseph Rhine is credited with the foundation of parapsychology in an attempt to shift focus from belief-led investigation to a more scientific one. Rhine was not afraid to call out fraud where he thought he saw it, angering Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with his frequent refutation of spiritualistic claims, including the accusation that famed psychic Mina Crandon was a fraud, an accusation Houdini would also make. This led Doyle to refer to Rhine as an ass. Rhine saw parapsychology as an offshoot of psychology, a branch sometimes deemed abnormal psychology. He insisted on testing claims such as ESP with thorough scientific rigour and a focus on evidence gathering. To further study this, he founded the Parapsychology Lab at Duke University and worked extensively with his wife Louisa, who investigated spontaneous cases of what would become known as extrasensory perception, or ESP. Joseph, meanwhile, worked with his colleague Carl Zener on developing lab-based tests. The primary test they devised in order to test someone's ESP ability involved 25 cards. These cards were separated into 5 different designs: circle, cross, wavy lines, square, and star. In later years, some people would add triangle to this collection, but that seems to be more the domain of stage magicians than practicing psychics. The test was very simple. The cards would be shuffled, one chosen, and looked at by the tester. The person being tested would then say which of the 5 symbols they believed the card to be. This would continue through all 25 cards in a standard deck. The results were encouraging. In 1931, one participant, Adam Lindsmayer, scored 100% on 2 tests, though each test only used 9 cards rather than the usual 25. What is more interesting is when they tested Lindsmayer by using 300 cards, he still scored higher than what we would expect from chance alone. Simply guessing would result in a correct answer around 20% of the time, but Lindsmayer scored double that. Eventually his scores lowered to be more in line with chance, but he was not alone in his successes. In 1933, Hubert Pearce also proved to be a compelling candidate. He and a researcher on the team, Joseph Pratt, set up an experiment at Duke University. Pratt would take a deck of ESP cards with him to a room on the campus, and Pearce would set himself up in the library. Pratt would shuffle the cards and take them one at a time, focusing on them, and Pearce was to psychically receive that information. Pearce got 558 guesses correct out of a total of 1,850, again higher than chance alone. Overall, Rhine conducted what he believed to be 90,000 tests using the ESP cards and believed as a result that ESP was a genuine and demonstrable occurrence. He would publish his findings in the book Extrasensory Perception in 1934. But despite his attempts to legitimise psychical research, Rhine came in for a lot of criticism. Criticism that casts serious doubt on the validity of his entire Zener card experiment. Let's take Hubert Pearce, for example. Researchers looking into the layout of the university and the protocols of the test have concluded that not only did Pearce himself handle the cards, but that he was left entirely unsupervised in the library, meaning he had every opportunity to sneak out. Not only that, but there were numerous viewing opportunities to see into the area Pratt was going through the cards. Beyond that specific incident, there are more general problems. First of all, cards were not always randomized properly. Participants could handle and shuffle cards themselves, and being able to see the researcher handling the cards allowed for sensory leakage, seeing the design in reflections or even hearing the researcher writing down the card and then correcting their own writing. There was also an issue with early ESP cards in that under the right conditions, it was possible to clearly see the design from the back of the cards, either through poor paper thickness or embossing. Then there are issues surrounding reporting bias. It isn't uncommon for negative results to be ignored by publications, dismissed or conveniently left out of the reporting. There is also the problem that no one since Rhine and his colleagues has been able to properly replicate those studies and results, something that is key to scientific research. Rhine's initially good goals for revolutionizing psychical research would never truly be met as a result of near-universal criticism of his tests, coupled with some of his more bizarre investigations, such as in the 1920s when Rhine investigated a psychic horse called Lady Wonder, who among other things could make predictions for the outcome of sporting events, and helping the police with their inquiries like every other psychic. Lady Wonder's owner developed a device to allow the horse to stamp out answers to questions. It was later demonstrated that Lady Wonder's owner was likely, either intentionally or not, leading the horse to the correct answer. You can lead a horse to answers, but you can't make them psychic. Despite the criticisms, Rhine's contribution to parapsychology cannot be underestimated or dismissed, and the cards he developed with Carl Zener have remained a part of psychic demonstrations for nearly a century. Though they are now less common among self-proclaimed psychics, they do nonetheless frequently crop up used by stage magicians. Hello. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Spooky History. Hit the bell icon and subscribe to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching, and please do have nightmares. Goodbye.